Hi, today I'm going to show how I made this Christmas shaker card, and the elements for the shaker were also made using dies. And I used shrink film to make those elements and had so much fun making this card. So to get started, I used the Celeste Snowflakes die set, and it comes in several different varieties. And this is a little snowflake tag, and there will be a video either at the end of this video, a link to it. If not, it'll be up soon, to some little tags that I made with that are super fun. But this one, I used the Snowflake Breeze, and I don't know how that polar bear got in there, but the tiny polar bears, the brand new pointed rectangle frames, which are awesome, and the Evangeline tiny snowflakes to make some more shaker mixes with. For the sentiments, I cut out different words from 2 different stamp sets I'll go over. All the supplies that I'm using will be listed on my blog, so check that out, or check the Poppy Stamps website for their dies. And speaking of dies, these are little dies that I shrunk for elements for the shaker tag. And I love polar bears. In fact, I collect them. I love them. And these are so cute. I can't wait to do a video just dedicated to shaker tag elements. But one idea that I wanted to share right now were these little bears. And they're polar bears because they're white. But if you used black shrink film, they would be adorable on a camping card. If you were to do like little bears and pine trees, a bear and pine tree card, it'd be adorable. So anyway, that's all I'll say for there. But I used white shrink film, like I said. It comes in lots of different colors. It is shiny on the front and back, and it's very thick. So it will take a little bit of patience getting these dies out, but it's worth it. I die cut each little snowflake and polar bear out and placed them on some parchment paper, which is different than wax paper. There's no wax on the parchment paper, it's just non-stick. But I put that in the oven for 350 degrees for like a minute, not very long. Preheated oven. And these are what come out after about a minute, and they are so cute. They're thick, and they're so detailed. You can see the little details. They're just adorable. So, of course, I wanted to put a little bit of bling on them. Here I'm just showing you the different snowflakes that I used. And I put some crystals on them. Because the shaker card is going to have 2 thicknesses of foam, they'll be just fine. They'll be fine to float around in there. But I used a variety of different colors, and again, just had so much fun doing this. I love it. To make the base of the card, it's a top fold card. So I scored 4.25 by 11 at 5.5. And the Snowflake Breeze die comes where it connects to the paper, and so I did need to cut it. I might have been able to save myself a step by gluing the green directly into that before I cut it, but I think in the long run the way I did it here is the way to do it for this particular card. So I just traced it out and followed the little curve and glued one edge to the card. After that is glued to the card, then the green can be attached to the back, or any color you wanted to use. So this craft sheet that you see is actually 4.25 wide. That's how I knew, where to cut it, rather than get it all glued together and then have to measure it. So once it's dry, I went ahead and just cut the edges. I used a cutting board on this, but for the little details I did use scissors. And then I just cut along the top edge. Then I flipped it over, and so the front was facing out, and I glued the frame on front. Now here are the Celeste Snowflakes. Different colored papers are different thicknesses, and some of these papers were pretty thin and they stuck in the die. And so I first die cut some wax paper with this die, and I actually did that twice. Every now and then with this die you'll need to do that. It's just intricate enough that there's a method to it. So I'm going to show you how I got this out. So after poking all the little back holes through, I loosened up one of the long, I'll call them petals of the snowflake, and I just followed the inside die line up and through the next loop using the guide for the big petal. I'll do it again here, a little more close up. So you'll see my, my tool going underneath the paper and just following that die, taking my time, not rushing it, and just very gently going through, using that to get into the other one. Now once you've done just a couple of these, you're able to kind of bend it back, and once you're able to get in under that center portion, then it'll just lift right out. But these dies are so beautiful and so versatile. You can do so many things with them. They're absolutely worth the work to get them out. You'll see that I've used 3 layers to stack. I've used the base Celeste outline with 2 different colors. Now each of those layers is made of 2 of the same color. So there's 2 layers of white, 2 layers of red, and 2 layers of the dark green outline glued together. Now different colors in this card could do, I mean, it just changes the look. So I wanted to show some different combinations that I thought might be kind of neat. Here is a kind of a lime green. It's the Simon Says Stamp Green Apple. And then here is a blue that could just be gorgeous. It changes the entire look of the card. And then there was a violet, kind of a dark purple that I thought would be beautiful as well. You know, if you threw in some golds with it, that would be really beautiful. And then I'm going to cover this next color in my tag video more, but this color is so unique, this next one. It's kind of a gold, and it looks like leather when it's done. It's just incredible. It's really beautiful paper. So I'll have a link to that below too, but this is really pretty, and it could be, you know, country western, you know, it kind of brings it to kind of a country western flair to me. So anyway, I'm using red. I chose the red, and I'm just gluing it on and just following that Celeste outline. Now I crisscross the outline as well, you know, to go with the snowflakes to kind of make a snowflake flower. So I assembled all the snowflake flowers, but I did not glue them to the front of the card yet. Next, I just glued some acetate to the back of the little card panel that we made, and then layered 2 layers of the foam. And I just wanted to make sure that I couldn't see it through the front, and I just stacked them in the back. I actually cut these using that frame die that I used for the outside frame, and just kind of filled it all in. It's not pretty, but it's also not going to be seen. So the main thing was to create a solid thickness throughout the entire back of the card. So that's what I did there. This is my new favorite tool. I love the texture that it adds to any background. You just need to have a little bit longer than what you need, because the little crimping will eat up some of your length. So just add, you know, maybe 1/4 of an inch so you can trim it down. And then I once that foam was dry, I went ahead and trimmed those edges so that anything extra left from the foam wouldn't show through. And then I actually filed it. Some of those rougher edges, I should have cut them a little bit better when I trimmed them. Cleaned the acetate, and then added the little shaker elements. After that, I glued the crimped background to the card so it would create the background for the shaker card. And then I set it under some weight to dry. Once it was dry, I went ahead and attached it to the card base. And then it was time that I could add the little snowflake flower to the front. The sentiment for this card says, "Have a special Christmas." And how I made this was by combining words from the Fairy Wishes and Do You Believe stamp sets. And I'm not afraid to cut apart little sentences to use as individual words, because it doesn't ruin the stamp at all. You can still use them together. I lined everything up using the Misty grid and embossed it with white. And I have to say, in all fairness to anybody who tries this, you know, It looks really easy in the video, and it is easy, but it did take time to get everything lined up, and it just takes patience. The Misty helps tremendously with that, and the more you do it, the easier it gets. So thanks so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.